and welcome back to the Optimized Equine Podcast. Today I'm joined by Jessica Fry, founder of Wild Hearts Equine Therapy, based out of Seneca, South Carolina. Jessica is also a trainer, clinician, and Mark Rashid Considering the Horse assistant instructor. So welcome, Jessica, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you start us out by just giving us the wiki version of of who you are and what you do?
Yes, I will do my best. Okay. Me and my business partner, Janine Hartley, founded Wild Hearts Equine Therapy Center 10 years ago in July of 2025. So we founded it in 2015. And I currently run all of the training programs here for the horses and the people. I do clinics and I love starting colts. That's my favorite thing to do, and rehabbing horses. And honestly, rehabbing people when they come to the farm. So that is like the dip your toe in version of what I do, I think.
Okay. Well, that was a good summary. Nice job.
Thank you.
Now, I was looking at some of your information, and I loved your guiding principles. I might need some of your help on one of them myself, to be honest. But I'll just read them real quickly. We share a sacred place with our clients, regardless of age or capability. We don't use horses. We partner with our horses. And resist the temptation to fix people, horses, and uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
Number 3, man, help me out.
Man, it was so cool actually listening to you read those, because I don't know that I've had anyone ever read them out loud like to me, and that was a neat feeling. So thank you. It kind of made me teary-eyed a little bit. We did not write those 10 years ago. We wrote those about 4 or 5 years ago when we really started growing and realized we needed an umbrella of who we are for everyone to follow, since we are not a modality, really. We're not a system. And I take after that from Mark. I think that's just such a fantastic way of being. So this is just the umbrella of who we try to be. And that last one, and you're in an uncomfortable situation and you want to fix things, and that's a hard one for most people to abide by, me included. And I think we are all a work in progress on that, everybody that is here. And if you're trying to do it, you're probably a work in progress too, the universal you, everybody. I don't think we ever get to this place of checking it off the list of things that we've accomplished. But it's a hard one, but a simple one. If something's uncomfortable, can we take a breath and step back and try to be in the situation rather than change it? Oh, tricky.
It's hard. It was really tricky. And, I know in my experience with horses and people, there's a lot of them that come and they do need fixing. That's not the best word to use, but there's things that are not going well. They're in, whether we want to call it disarray, dis-ease, whatever you want to call it. Things can't stay the same. And so it's so easy to just be like, I just want to help you. And we could say using the word help is better, and maybe it is, but there's still something that gets in our way when we can't just, like, if you have to fix it, if you can't just sit with it, there's something that gets in your way for sure. That's definitely, something I got to later in my horse training things, like you, I kind of shifted my style as I met certain people and went down certain paths and all that. And it's always been about, like, better for horses. I just want to make everything better for horses. That's definitely where it comes from. But it's hard to learn. And then once you realize you kind of need to sit with it, it can be easier said than done to just Let things be the way they are.
Yeah, it's wild. And something that I wish I would have had the wherewithal to work on as a younger human, but I couldn't, and I didn't even know it was out there, probably. But is the simple thing of acceptance, and that piece of accepting whatever is going on is, for me, what opens the space for all possibility, both positive and negative. But really, if you can accept it, I feel like, in my experience, only positive things have come from it. Whether it's been something that needed to be fixed or not, accepting the situation and then being able to move forward is what has opened things up for me. And I hope I can keep doing that, because it's not just in horses that has helped me. It's in pretty much every aspect of my life. It's pretty key, acceptance.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. I feel like horses are already there. Horses accept what is,
Yeah, they do.
That's how they tolerate some of us, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really good at that. And then, we come in and we're going to fix everything. And
it's too much tension and pressure. Way too much tension and pressure when we come into it in that way. Not that I haven't done it so many times, with people and with horses. But it is a beautiful thing when we can step back and realize that whatever is going on with that person or that horse or whatever being you're partnering with in that moment, that what we see as a something negative, something that needs to be fixed or challenged, is actually what helped them survive whatever they needed to survive in the moment. And so that's why it stuck so hard. So getting in there from that angle, I think, can bring us some compassion to the situation that gives us the ability to step back and create some more space there. But for me, I can only speak for my experience, but that does help me to understand that they needed to do that to survive at one point. So compassion.
Yeah, love it. Now, in your equine therapy business, I just don't have a lot of experience with it. So can you kind of fill us in on what that looks like, at least for you? I'm sure there's all kinds of different methods and models for that. But can you tell us a little bit about what equine therapy is at Wild Hearts?
Yes, I think, because man, is it I could also just write a book on it, probably, but I'll try to make it really short. Our motto, like unofficially, is if it's not good for the horse, it's just not good. So we don't do it. And we are horse first and client led, which means whatever client gets out of the car on the day that we're doing a session, that's the client we're working with. No matter what our goal was, no matter what we accomplished last week or didn't accomplish, no matter what we feel they need, it really doesn't matter. It's who gets out of the car that we're working with, and it's who gets out of the pasture. Did they sleep okay? Do they have a headache? Did they eat? I mean, are they going through some herd changes? Is there a new herd member? I mean, you just never know. So that is our foundation, is we are horse first and client led. And then what we do in a session is use your imagination. If you can dream it, we probably do it. We do things that are just as simple as 45 minutes of sitting on a horse and no one's talking, and we're just walking around the whole farm. Maybe we have sidewalkers, maybe we have two, maybe we have one, maybe we have three, depending on the needs of the rider. Maybe they don't need a sidewalker, maybe they are independent riders and they just need their facilitator and a volunteer close by. The team could be 2, the team could be 6. Sometimes there's an occupational therapist involved, sometimes there's a counselor. Sometimes there's a speech therapist. I mean, it just, sometimes we do body art on our horses, which is so cool to see what the clients draw on the horses. We try to keep everything moving in a direction of positivity, but not in a way that discounts the emotions of the client. So if they need to be in a negative space for, a little while, can we lead by example and bringing them out of that, rather than telling them how to do it? Can we use our physicality of movement and dance or running or climbing, or going to the playground, taking the minis to the playground? Is that an option for this client? Do they not want to be around the horses at all? And that's okay. We have a client that he's been coming here since he was 11, 12, middle school. And this client is now a junior. He's a junior now. Man, and it's wild how much he's grown, because he was this little kid and now he looks like a linebacker. And he worked with the horses for a long time. And then about 3 years ago, he just got disinterested in the horses, but not disinterested in coming out for sessions. So he would come out, and his facilitator and his volunteer, and he would play baseball. Now he likes to go around and fix things. So if there is a fence that's broken, this is an emotionally challenged client. He just had a lot of trauma in his youth. So now they built new gates for a round pen. I mean, that's what he does for a session. And how are the horses involved? How is this equine therapy? Well, there's 47 horses here. And I don't know, do you know about heart math and like electromagnetic field and all that stuff with the horses? Should I chat about it a little? I get very
do it. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So heart math, this is all from heart math. This isn't like Jessica Fry did all this research and wrote a paper. Maybe eventually, but this is heart math that did this. They set up an EKG and with a human and with a horse, and they were partners already. They knew each other. And a horse's heart rate is between 24 and 44 beats a minute when a horse feels safe and confident in themselves and their environment and their handler. And as we know, humans is between 60 and 80 if we're healthy and just, typical. But if we've had anxiety and trauma, then our heart rates can be between 80 and 100. That's our baseline, which is pretty high for an adult that is just walking around or sitting at a desk or whatever. So they hook these EKGs up and they watch as the human's heart rate starts to come down and what looks like try to synchronize with the horses by doing nothing, just by being around this horse. So electromagnetic field wise, ours is 5 to 10 feet out, because our hearts are like this big, and a horse's is much bigger. There are studies that say it's 50 feet. There are studies that have said it's like up to a mile. So it just depends on what you believe. So if we have 47 horses on the farm, they all feel relatively safe and confident in themselves and in their environment and in their handler. All of these horses' heart rates are between 24 and 44 beats a minute. And we're surrounded by them, whether we're working with them or not. So there's your equine therapy. And we don't even need to be doing anything. It's just passive. We're in an environment of regulation. And when we're in an environment of regulation, our bodies, our nervous systems are probably going to try to latch onto that because it's safer and it feels better. So that, I guess I said I was going to do a short version and that was kind of long, but that is the equine therapy we do here at Wild Hearts.
That's beautiful. Love it.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Thanks.
Now I know you mentioned that you rehabilitate horses as well, and you give them a forever home.
Yes.
So are these are the same horses that are working with your clients?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's you. I'm guessing you're the trainer here. You rehabilitate these horses, I gather, huh?
Yeah, it's actually it's gotten really cool in the last 6 months because I have unexpected help, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we started with 5 horses. That's what we had 10 years ago. Now we've got 47 now. 9 of those belong to staff, and so we're not a boarding facility. We don't board to the public, but we'll board to staff, and so they don't work in the program. But all of the other horses and donkeys do in some way or another. Um, and when they get here, usually how it used to go is I would work with them for 6 months to 2 years before they would go into the program, helping them regulate, feel better. Because we're not getting no one's donating the horse that can do all the things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No one's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this horse is great. He feels great. He's super healthy. He has 4 healthy legs and 2 healthy eyes. And he's
Yeah.
never had EPM and he's just wonderful. We don't get those horses. We get the
Yeah.
horses that have either been, have behavioral challenges because usually from some type of trauma. And I want to be really clear here. I'm not disparaging previous owners because some people just don't know. We just don't know that what we're doing might not be the right thing for this animal, and that's okay. If we don't know, we don't know. So we're happy to take those horses on. So I just wanted to be really clear about that. That those traumas aren't intentional most of the time. So we get these horses in, and they're also normally not fed very well. Nutrition is really important to us here at Wild Hearts and to me. And we have a whole science kitchen that every horse has something different depending on its needs. So we get this horse in, we get them super healthy with, if they need chiropractic, they get chiropractic. If they need dentistry, they get dentistry. And we use a natural balance dentist. Who we absolutely love. They get all their hoof care, they get their veterinary work, really big on Masterson method. We do fascial release. I mean, you name the bodywork modality and it is done here at Wild Hearts. And after
Yeah.
all those things are done, then I usually start training. And it really can take 1 to 2 years for these horses to feel good enough to safely work in the program. It's really safety key, first, number one. Um, and then they work for as long as they want to. We have horses that have been working here since we opened 10 years ago. We have horses that have had to take breaks in those times, and then we have horses that we've retired here. And once they retire, they don't leave. They do stay, and they stay until they choose to cross over. And so we also bury them here because we're in South Carolina and we can. And I'm happy I'm happy that we can do that.
Yeah.
But recently, a couple of our longtime clients that have had emotional challenges, but other than that, you know, fairly, I hate saying neurotypical, man, because none of us are neurotypical, but it's the word to say. So these are neurotypical clients that have had some emotional challenges and they've been in our program for 3-4 years. And so they know how we handle our horses. They understand the horsemanship that we work with. And now they're training the new horses.
That's
It's
awesome.
wild.
That is very cool.
It is just literally when I was walking, I came inside to do this because it's so cold outside today. One of our clients is out there training one of our horses that's getting into the program, and it's just God just warmed my heart. So yeah, that's how we're doing it now. So yes, I am still the trainer, but
Mhm.
I have help, so it's really great. It's really great.
That's great. Now, do you have you come across horses that you couldn't get to a point that you would consider safe enough to do that work? Or is it just finding the kind of work they can do?
One.
Yeah.
I've one horse that, and it's not that he's not safe. Well, he wouldn't be safe for most people because he never stops asking questions. And you've got to answer those questions pretty timely, or he answers them. And I've had him for 7 years, and it doesn't matter. If it's a new person, he's like, I have all of these questions for you every single time. And if that person's like, well, wait a minute, he's like, okay, done. And he's doing his
Yeah.
own thing. So that he's safe, and he loves going up to clients in the pasture, and he's wonderful. But if he's not going to be a therapy horse.
Okay. Okay. So to you, does that mean a riding horse, or he's just not even
Oh,
really
no.
going to come out of the pasture?
No, he comes out. He's ridden.
Okay.
I've taken him to clinics. He's awesome. He is
Oh, by you, but not
no,
by the.
now one of our facilitators, yeah, I took him to clinics. But now one of our facilitators, she's kind of new to the horse game. A lot of our facilitators were new to the horse game, and she's been with us for 2 years. And about a year ago, she said, I really want to become a better horsewoman. What horse do you think could help me with that? And I said, I know just the
I know one.
one. So now actually she's working with him, and it's really going fantastic. She's ridden him in 3 different clinics here on the farm where other assistant instructors and Mark has come and taught. And so he does all the things. He wouldn't be good on a team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That is cool. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how your horses live? I saw you have track systems and all kinds of fun things. So, tell us about that. Sounds like they're living the life. Sounds like I want to come over and bring that
Oh, I
home.
wish you would. I wish you would. I love showing people the place, mainly because we've put so much, blood, sweat, and tears, man. This is besides my kids and my husband. This is my family. Everything here. The from the grass to the trees to the facilitators to the clients, volunteers, horses. It's my heart. So it means a lot to me. And I love it when people come and see it. So we have 32 acres here, which doesn't sound like a lot when I just said we have 47 horses. But they're all on their own individual herd track system. So our herds range from 3 horses to up to 7 here on the farm, and we have 8 different pastures. Every single pasture has a track, and some people aren't familiar with that, so I'll just kind of describe it really quick. It essentially means, let's say we have a 3-acre pasture. There will be an infield. You can think of like like track and field. There's an infield where you play soccer, and then there's a track where you would run. Except for our horses aren't typically running on the track; they're normally just meandering around. But that's where they live, and it's like a dry lot because there's no grass on the track. We didn't remove the grass, but a bunch of horses have walked on their tracks enough to where it's all dirt. And we have different, like there's rocks in places, and there's hills, and there's forest in some of the pastures. It's really great. I love the track systems. And what they do is they keep the horses moving. It's like a forced diet and exercise program because they're not on grass all the time. And they have full access to hay, which we keep in hay huts. They're also called bell bonnets, if people aren't familiar with hay huts. And they're all on these 24 by 24 foot pads that we created with Crusher Run. It's like what's left over after they get all the gravel out. It's like screenings. It's a little fine. It kind of turns to concrete when it gets wet a bit. It gets really hard. And so we've got those with stall mats, 24 stall mats over that, so that they're not standing in mud and manure and wet hay and all that stuff. And then we have slow feeder nets on our round bells, and then the hay huts or the bell bonnets over that. We've got that in a corner of the track, and then we would have water in another corner, salt block in another corner, and a shelter in another corner. And I'm saying corners, they don't know hop corners. I'm just trying to say that they're all in different spots. And that way, if the horses want to go somewhere else, they're not just going, well, my shelter's here, my hay's here, my salt block's here, I don't have to go anywhere. No, they have to travel. They have to travel. And then something that I've noticed in the last couple of years, someone said to me, man, your horses move on the track more than a lot of horses I see on track systems, that usually they'll just kind of stay at the hay, shelter, water, and that's it. But our horses actually do navigate the tracks. And I think it's because, I don't use an herbicide. We're all organic, so no herbicides, no pesticides here. And so a little bit of grass will grow underneath the fence where the rope fence is. And so they'll move along and they don't get a lot, but they get enough that it keeps them moving if they want something other than hay. So I love, as you can probably tell, I love the track systems. They're absolutely awesome. And then to avoid any trouble at feeding time, because as you can imagine, feeding 8 different pastures on 32 acres when everyone gets a different feed pan can take a long time. They all have their individual feeding stalls that we taught them all to go into. It's the same exact stall every single time. So when feed time comes, they all just go in. They're ready. And then you just go in and close their gates and give them their food and walk away. It's really a pretty great system.
Yeah.
So that's how we do our management here at the farm.
And so those are attached to their track?
Yeah, they're on the tracks. Yeah, the feed pens are on the tracks, yeah.
Wow, that is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
And you mentioned they have access to free choice hay as well as their individual meals and all of that stuff. That I love to hear. Coming from my background is in like hunter jumper English disciplines, and as you know, there's plenty of people still to this day that are just like they don't know anything about this stuff.
I know.
Me and Dev were just talking about in a different episode. Check it out, Dev Branham.
I will, because I love him.
But we were just talking about how at horse shows they're starting to have turnouts available here and there. That you know, and I was just like, that's amazing. You can like rent a turnout and rotate horses. And I was like, man, I'm sure some people are like, turnout? What is this turnout you speak of? You know, so it's like definitely a different world. And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about, you know, people don't probably think they're sending you some traumatized horse. But it's that kind of stuff that living in a stall. When I say that kind of stuff, I mean living in a stall all the time without a lot of turnout, or with these like 30 minutes a day, let's go out for a minute, you know, by ourselves kind of a situation. I mean, over a lifetime, you could call that trauma. Call it what you want, but it definitely has the consequences. You know,
those are the trickiest horses to help feel safe. Is the horses that have been the horses that I've gotten. You know, there's millions of horses in the world, and I'm sure there are plenty of show horses that feel safe and that are treated absolutely fantastic. Dev being one of the people that does that. But when we get a horse that's done some pretty intense dressage for a long time and has been stall kept, we have one in, she's a Hanoverian, and all the horses go into their feed pens, you know, and they all have gates, and the gates are just kind of swinging open. Without a human, she was like, I don't know how to get it. I mean, the gate's open, but she couldn't figure it out because everything had been just given to her, probably in a stall most of her life. So it took her 18 months to figure out that she could just move that gate with her head and go in like the rest of the horses. And let me tell you, Tamara, the day she did that, I cried. I was so happy for her that she was like, oh, I have onus of this. I have control of my situation. I can go in and feed myself. Yeah, baby, you can do that. I mean, it's just, it's cool to watch the transformation for sure.
It's when they live confined most of the time, I think they just lose so much of Dev uses the word hoarseness. They lose that, and they may be very well cared for, and you may even say they're happy. I wouldn't, you know, some horses are clearly not happy. But some appear to kind of settle into that lifestyle. But it definitely changes them, and you lose a big piece of what makes a horse,
and why we love them.
So amazing,
right.
know. So, and the sad part is the people that are caring for them. I mean, they really care for them. It's not like, certainly there's bad owners out there, but I think it's a minority. A lot of people with horses that are struggling, whether it's mentally or physically, or they've just lost their horseness.
Mm-hmm.
And those people would do anything for your horse, And I think I was the same way before I knew better. If you would have asked me back then about how much I loved or cared for my horses or listened to my horses, of course I do.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so hard. Where I am now, sounds like where you are too, is we can all say these words of like what we do and what we love about horses and how we handle and train horses. And it's like, man, I would have said almost the same stuff. The words now are a little different. And of course the methods are way different in that way. Everything's different, but the words really weren't that different. I find that really challenging. And when I see people's clinic flyers and program flyers and stuff, I'm like, gosh, we're all using the same word, but we are not doing the same thing. It's so hard to try to show people that are living that other life, like, there's this whole other side of your horse that you don't know about and your horse has forgotten about.
Oh, yeah. Well, what has really changed for me, it's a way of thinking, is that if you would have asked me 6 years ago, now I've always been on this path of like trying to, I never had formal training, so I didn't have to unlearn a whole lot. I think I've been looking for what Mark Rashid does my whole life, and I didn't know it, but I was always trying to get there. But 5-6 years ago, I would have said, yes, I am doing it. Of course I'm doing it. I'm doing all the things I should be doing. But now if you ask me, I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I mean, I really don't. I don't know if this is the right way to go. I know that for me, it feels really good, that I see good results in the horses and in the people, but I don't have a freaking clue most of the time if the decision I am making is going to be the right one. I just weigh all of the things and go, based on my experience, this is what I feel like we should do. And then sometimes the next day I'm like, whew, that's not what we should do. Or the next year I'm like, we got to change all this. We got to change all of this. And I feel, I wouldn't have felt good about that a few years ago. And now I do. It's fine. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay.
Well, I think that loops us right back to the acceptance thing.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, maybe you just didn't have the acceptance ability quite as much as you do now. And
I definitely did not. And in 5 years, I'll probably say, who did I think I was? I wasn't accepting shit 5 years ago. Oh, I'm sorry if I cut. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Oh, no problem. Yeah, no, I definitely feel you there. I saw on your page that you mentioned neuromuscular dentistry. I think you said natural balance dentistry.
Yeah, but it is neuromuscular. Yeah.
Kind of all the same thing, I think. That, to me, is an example of what you're talking about. So, I've been this horse hippie, whatever you want to call me, depending on who you ask, person for so long. And, I think I'm doing everything as right as I can, and I'm open to learning and all this stuff. And, but up until just a few months ago, I had always had a regular vet sedate my horse and do the thing with the power tools and, the whole deal. And despite everything I knew, it all just made sense. Like, yeah, of course the vet says they're doing it right, and the vet's not overfloating, and the vet tells me about their chewing surfaces, and then there kind of comes a point and you're just you learn, and then you're like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. You
How
know?
did I ever think that was okay? That's where I was when I learned about neuromuscular dentistry. I was like, how did I never question the other way of going? It's so interesting because doing this work, it has infiltrated so many aspects of my life in that I almost question everything now. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not, just because this is how I did this yesterday doesn't mean it's the way I should do it today. And maybe I need to pause and think about, is there a different way of feeling about this or being or going forward or whatever. So yeah, that is a very cool part of this as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that that sort of is, it embodies a little bit what optimization means to me, which is where this podcast name came from. I think sometimes when people hear like, oh, the Optimized Equine podcast, it's like, well, that must be about performance horses, or
Yeah.
well, you know, optimization means really varied things to a lot of people, kind of like the word horsemanship.
Right. That's so true. Very broad.
But what you said is what optimization is to me, which is like we can be, there's no reason we can't be getting better every single day. And it doesn't mean we weren't good enough the day before.
Yes. Key. That's
Yeah.
key.
Yeah. That's a big piece of it. And I think that's, again, that's kind of the acceptance thing, right? Is like if you can't accept how you were doing it yesterday, you're going to be too hung up on things to truly make it better the next day. So anyway, that's what optimization is to me.
Yeah.
And kind of, that
I
just
love
reminded
that.
me of that.
I
So,
love
yeah,
that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, no problem. You've mentioned Mark Rashid several times. Obviously, he has been an influential person for you. Can you tell us a bit about meeting him? And you know, for me, I like the word corner turners. I have very clear, whether it's people or horses or events that happened. It's very clear to me when I look back, like what my big corner turners are.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he was one for you. Can you tell us a little bit about meeting him and how that all went down?
Yeah, I absolutely can. I'll actually, I'll start at the very beginning in 2016 when our trimmer, Cindy Medicine Hawk, she's awesome, brought the farm a box of books. And it was a bunch of training books and just different books about horses. And I think I might have told you before, but I don't read horse training books because they cloud my head and they make me question myself, and it just feels like head trash. They all say something different. So I've never read horse training books. The way I learned how to work with horses when I was a little girl was I read Walter Farley books, The Black Stallion. That's what I read. And so I just don't read them. So I'm looking through this box of books thinking like, I'm not gonna look at any of these, but thank you so much for bringing them. Someone will love them. And I pick up a blue and white book with a drawing of a guy on the front in a hat, and because it looked different, and I turned it over. I know now that it was like the energy of the universe doing this, but I turn it over and it says Colorado's James Herriot. And I'm obsessed with James Herriot books. I love them all. I have them all. I've read them all multiple times. So I was like, oh, this is great. It's like a storybook about things he did in his life. This guy, Mark Rashid, is how I pronounce his name.
That's how I said it first too. Stuck in my head.
I didn't know. So I'm like, this guy, Mark Rashid, because I'm just reading the thing. I'm like, wow, this guy's awesome. So I take it inside, and that night I start reading, and I read the whole book, Horses Never Lie, that night. And I was just like, you know how when like you like find a thing and you're like, oh, this is it. This is my thing that I've been looking. Oh, how it's taken me so long. I found it. Oh my God. So, and I know I'm a relatively excitable person, and this just like, boom, like sent me to the moon. And I told my business partner, Janine, I was like, this is what we need to be doing. We can't do anything else. This is what we need to be doing, which is so great because it's just principles, really. And so I looked him up because I was like, we got to go. Where is he? He's probably retired. I don't know, because I didn't know who this guy was. Like, oh gosh, I'm probably too late. So I look it up, and he had a clinic 4 hours away in just a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We'll go audit his clinic. And so immediately I was like, Janine, we gotta go. Let's make plans. So we did. We found a hotel. We went up. We audited 3-day clinic in Apex, North Carolina, that Carla Ball hosted every year for like 10, 15 years. Carla's another great, fantastic human. And I was blown away. Just blown away. He had one rider I'll never forget, riding this little Mustang. She was a jumper. And the challenge was that every time this little white Mustang would do a lead change, he would also buck. And so Mark's watching him go. And then Mark says, and I'm going to paraphrase and not get this right, but he says something like, this is 2016. All right, well, next time, when you're coming around in your canter and you're going to do your lead change, just take a breath. Don't do anything else. Just take a breath and look in the direction you want that lead to go. That's all. And this rider, she was 16 at the time, this little rider, and she did it. And that little Mustang just popped right into its lead change. No problem. No tail swish. No buck. No ear pin. It was beautiful. And I saw that happen over and over again. Like, well, just soften your eye, or just breathe, or just like, don't do all the things. And it was amazing. So on Sunday, so clinic's normally Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So on Sunday, I was so nervous. I think it was like 5:00 at night, and I'm trying to decide, like, oh, do I go talk to him? Like, do I? And you know how you're like, oh, like I've got like the flop sweats. Like, do I go tell him like this is like, hi, I'm Jessica, like such a dork, whatever. But I was like, if I don't go talk to him, what if I never get another chance? Which is often what I will ask myself, and then go do a thing. And so he's over there brushing his horses, and I walk up and I was like, hi, my name's Jessica, and I really love what you're doing, and blah blah blah, all the like fangirl weird stuff that you like, oh, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And in true Mark Rashid fashion, which I didn't know then, but I know now, he just was quiet, and he paused, and he said, well, let me finish taking care of my horses, and we can talk for a second. Which, I mean, right then and just that. So now I have to wait, and I have to be patient, and I have to settle. I mean, just that. And so he talked to me for a minute, and he was like, yeah, sometimes, we'll have people out, and we have assistant instructors. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool, that you have assistant instructors. Never thought I would be one. Like, I still don't, honestly. And so anyways, that was my first meeting with him, and we went and audited again the following year. So a year went by. I go home after that first 2016, and I'm like trying to do this work. I have no clue what it is, and I'm like, okay, well, we're just not going to do anything, and we're just breathing. All right.
I was definitely going to go there with this conversation.
Oh my God, like ridiculous. I like ruined a horse for a year. He's fine now because he's fine. But for a year, I'm trying to do this thing where I'm not doing anything. And that's not what this work is. This work is just doing the thing that you need to do in the moment. That's what it is. And only doing what you need to do in the moment. That's part of it.
Mm.
I didn't know that. I'm just like sitting on a horse going, okay, we're going to walk. Are we? We're not walking yet. All right. Well, what do we do now? I don't know. I have no idea what we're doing. And I'm telling everybody. Everybody probably thinks I'm insane. Like, this is what we're doing now. This is what we're doing. And they probably all thought I was crazy. But they stuck around. It's wild. And so I keep going. And then they tell me they have a 5-day and ask me if I'd like to come out. So this is like 3-4 years later, after I started riding in his clinics. And I was like, yes, I would love to come out. So I go out and I ride in the 5-day, and it was amazing. And I was just like, it was like I was like a teenager at my first dance, honest to God, because I felt like I had found my tribe of people that I could partner with, that in a way that I wanted to partner with horses. Like, we could all be this one thing. And then on June 25th of 2020, they asked me if I wanted to be an assistant instructor. And yeah, man, the tears, dude,
Yeah.
the tears. I mean, they still had to watch me teach. So they said I had to come back in September and they needed to watch me teach. And so I did. And the first week, I was just so nervous. Oh, it was a mess. But understanding, next week was a little better. And they offered me the spot and I took it. And then, yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of my life.
Wow. What a story. That's what you were talking about I'm gonna do this thing. I feel like that's such I mean, I personally definitely had that experience myself. When I transitioned, let's say, from hunter jumper world to discovering a bit of the horsemanship world and kind of starting that path, it can be paralyzing. That is for sure.
Good word for it.
You just don't want to do anything wrong and you're not accepting anything that you do wrong anyway. If we want to bring that back up again, you're, punishing ourselves and
you're just
causing all this. Yeah. Very much. Very much. I also see a lot of people that want to go down this path and like they're doing things a certain way and they want to do it a totally different way and they discover a different way, whether it's Mark's or some other awesome person that's doing this stuff, because there's so many doing so many great things now. But then I feel like it's a lot of people will just, it's like they're like, I don't do these bad things anymore. They don't, they're just like, I don't do these bad things anymore. And so if I can't go do X, Y, and Z without doing quote unquote bad things to horses, we just don't do them anymore.
Right.
And that's fair, and I know, myself, there was definitely a time where I did accidentally leave hunter jumper world. It wasn't really like an intentional exit, but then it was like, so judgy and so righteous, frankly, of, well, I don't do those things to horses anymore. And we breathe now. If we have to breathe, we breathe. And I don't care how long it takes. And then it eventually, thank God, thanks to my amazing teachers myself, figured out that it's not about not doing things. It's about doing things. And it's just how you're doing them. And I mean, certainly there was some practices, let's say, that I will never do again that I did.
Absolutely, same.
But for the most part, a lot of it, I ride totally different, but it's like, I still believe you can go jump, you can go do whatever.
Absolutely.
It's just how you do it. And be patient, but being patient doesn't mean doing nothing.
No, it doesn't. And that's the piece that can trip people up, me included.
Yeah, it trips people up.
Yeah, we want to be so soft that we become a void. We're not leading. We're not making a decision. We're not being safe. It's nothing. We're just in this space of fear of doing anything while we think we're doing the right thing. And until, I can only speak for myself, but until I really understood that the work was in here, I don't think I made a lot of progress with what I need. And I still have so much work left to. I hope I am working on this till the day I die. It's the best thing on earth that I have ever found to work on. I mean, what better way to go through life than trying to figure out how I can, on the inside, be a bit softer, a bit more regulated, a bit quieter for myself, my horses, my kids, my husband, my business partner, for everybody. For me, how can I be those things for me, a bit more regulated? And all of that, once I was practicing it, because I'm just practicing it, that's when I started to really notice a change in my horsemanship, like a big jump. Like, oh, this is how this is supposed to feel. And I hope I say that again in 5 years. Like, oh, I knew nothing 5 years ago. This is how this is supposed to feel. I hope it just keeps going in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think the me a few years ago knew little compared to the me now, and I think that's always true. And I think that's great as long as you don't spend all your time thinking about the 3 years ago.
No.
You know?
The 3 years ago, you needed to be who we were to do whatever we were doing. Just like the people that have to go through the things and get these coping mechanisms that don't really work for them, but boy, they saved their lives a long time ago. I mean, it's really all the same thing. Sometimes we have to do a thing in order to figure out how to get away from that. It's just how it is. And I think it's so cool, and we're all so lucky that we get to keep growing in that way. It's really neat.
Yes, definitely. You mentioned something about not filling your head with head trash.
Yeah.
I like that. And that reminds me what I've kind of been going through relatively lately. I kind of just had to make a conscious choice to stop allowing even trainers that I like, stop allowing them into my news feed, if you want to call it that, whether it's your news feed, your news, whatever, however you take in your information. It sort of turns into, like you were mentioning, I start to question if certain thoughts or ideas or techniques or whatever we want to call them, I'm like, is that even mine? Where did this even come from? So I really like that you were talking about that, that even things that are like not bad can still be head trash. It's still like clouding your own genuine thoughts and ideas, your own feeling yourself.
Right. And you know who will tell us if we're doing okay? Probably the horses. They'll let us know.
Yes, if you ask or are willing to listen.
Yeah, if you're willing to listen.
Another thing I don't want to forget about is earlier you mentioned how horses may be done working or they retire there. How do you know a horse is done working, or how do you determine that?
Well, so that's such a great question, and it's always different. But I can just give a few examples. No matter how hard and how much and how often we train our volunteers and our facilitators, we're all still people that are going to make mistakes, all of us. And the fact that we have, 8 facilitators here, 4 in training, 70 volunteers, and then 150 clients a week, that's so many people handling our horses, right? And so, again, no matter how much we educate, sometimes we're going to do things in a way that are going to cause our horse to be more bracy than soft. And I will be the first to tell you that I have a ton of bracy horses here on this farm, a ton. That doesn't mean we're not all working towards softness, but they're all bracy. I mean, because of the work that we do, I mean, we're all trying. But
Mhm.
so when you get a horse, and we've had them that have worked for a while, and then because they're such good horses, people kind of, this is just what I've noticed, quit noticing when a horse says, when you take my halter off, I'm a little tight about it. They just, oh, it's just this horse. This horse is so great. He's fine. On the next time and the next time. And if that goes on long enough, that horse says, I didn't feel good about that. And now I don't feel good about any of it.
Mhm.
And the way I'm going to behave is I'm going to be tight and you're going to feel it. So those horses that I've noticed will just start to be tight in their bodies and start to avoid people after they're done working. So they're fine. You can put their halter on. They'll walk right up to you. This is all right. This is what we do. But when I'm done with my job, I really need to get away. Really need to get away. And that's not how our horses usually are. So that's a really big sign. If a horse is like, I really got to get away from this, that tells me this horse needs a pretty big break. We have missed a lot of signs that this horse has been telling us, and we need to give him a good break. So I have a big percher on right now, Blue, he's on his second year of a break, and he may never go back to work. I don't know. It's whatever he wants to do. He was awesome. He's still awesome, but we missed some signs because he's such a rock star. He's a unicorn. And so signs were missed. And so now he's kind of retired. He's just hanging out and getting all of his snacks. And he goes up to all the people for pets. Because I have a herd of horses that also lives in the yard. So like we'll have yard horses and sessions going on, and everyone just knows how to be around one another. So it's actually really neat to watch. So Blue just lives in the yard, and he gets to go up to people and get his belly scratched and be a part of things on his terms. So that's one way. I need to get away from people as soon as my session is over. That's one way. Another thing that I've noticed that they'll start doing is you go to put the girth on, and they'll just be the slightest. Their eye gets a little hard. Like, what's that about? Okay, we need to take a step back from that. And we try to educate people. These are the things you need to look at, and then let others know that this horse might need a little extra help doing this thing. Or maybe there's something physical going wrong, whatever. We need to look at it. And people are great about telling us that now. Like Blue was a really good example of, hey, you missed a bunch of signs. And as for retirement, it's actually pretty close to my heart right now because we have a mare here that we've had. She's 28. She was a donation when she was 22. She came in with her daughter. They've lived together their whole lives. So Scouty and Kit and Scouty, we say. And Scouty is just physically, just these last like 4 months, I've noticed that she's got a little atrophy. She's a Percheron Morgan, so she's a little chunky.
I can
so
imagine.
atrophy wouldn't exactly be easy to see. And it really wasn't. But I just noticed in the last like 3-4 months that her hind end just looked a little smaller. And she was just walking a little, still galloping up the hill for food, still doing great in her sessions. And she only had, I think we have her down to like 4 sessions a week, and maybe being ridden by a small human for like 20-30 minutes. But I was like, she's done. She's done. We're retiring her. So this month she retires, and boy, people are sad. People are so sad that she's retiring. And one of our facilitators, Kelly, is throwing her a big retirement party with one of the schools that comes out here. So Scouty's going to have this big party for her, and everyone's really excited. And she's doing this whole little like book about Scouty and all of this is what Scouty has done with her whole life. It's our people are. I cannot stress enough how amazing the people that are out here are. They're just so incredible. So Scouties was physically, she just started to actually look her age, and she never had. But I do want to say that even though she's going to be retired and she's not going to be working, she's not going to be ridden, I think that it is still important that we get her out and she connects with people, and we do things with her, because that's also part of her, that's part of her life. That's been her life for the last 6 years. I don't want to just take that away from her. So she's still gonna have school groups, but just no riding. She'll just be like the horse that gets to hang out and people will do body work on her, because we teach the school groups masters the method. So anyway, that was a long answer to your question, but those are a few ways that we figure it out. Yeah.
That's great. I think it really shows how close of attention you're paying, and I think, same as I said before, of course, in my previous horsing life, I would have said I was paying attention.
Yeah.
But that's really a different level of attention.
Yeah.
And I know from my path, I am pretty certain you would agree that we can't even get to that level of attention until after we have put so much work into ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
The me before had so much to do inside before it could have been that tuned in. It was way too busy, way too fast, way too much going on, too many thoughts, no way to look that.
And then the worry of like, okay, well, if I retire Scouty, who's going to do her job? Do I have someone to take over? Sorry, I got like a little like gnat that's flying around. Do I have someone, do I have another horse that can handle what she was handling? And only this year do I feel like I was ready to be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Something will show up to fill that space. Like, I had no worry about it. We're going to retire her. She's done. Something will show up to fill that space, or those clients can take a break, because we're horse first. And that has to be the foundation of everything that we do forever. And another way that I'm able to see what horses are, need a little help is I still do 5 feed shifts a week. It's a long day, but I want to be out there every morning and laying eyes on every single horse, so I can know, how are you feeling today? Are you going to be okay for the program? Do you have a little cut? Are you feeling a little down? Do you have a cough? Are you bracey today for some reason? I mean, it's important to really pay attention to them if they're going to be working with the kind of people our horses are working with every day, I think.
Mm-hmm. And saying that, I think, is perfect, because I told you when we chatted before, I had this boarding training place, was doing the things up until recently, and then now I just have my own personal horse place with just my horses here and just me taking care of them.
Wonderful.
But then when I wasn't doing all the horse care by myself, and I really wasn't doing, I was laying eyes on horses every day, seeing what goes on, but I wasn't doing feed shifts and things like that. And, there was a phase where it's kind of beat into your head a little bit. If you're going to make any money or do anything in business, you've got to get other people doing those tasks, like it's the only way. But there's no way to walk out and just check on horses, even if you think you're going to go check on them. It's not the same as if you are truly out there every day, like doing the thing. You don't see the thing.
No, and seeing who they are.
Right.
Really getting to know them. Now, we do have fantastic help on the feed. So I'm just a part of the feed team. We have a feed team manager, Elite, and she is awesome. And I consider her my boss on the feed team. She does the schedule. She tells me, the things that are needed, what happened over the weekend, because she does Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which, oh my God, what a blessing. I do not work Friday, Saturday, Sunday at all.
That's amazing. Truly worth probably triple her weight in gold is my
Oh my
guess.
gosh,
So,
she's the most incredible human. And that gives me space to be able to really focus on what I should be focusing on Monday through Thursday, because I know I'll have that break. But they're teaching that awareness is really hard, because it's a practice. You just have to be doing it. But she is, and I think the rest of the feed team is, and so it makes it helpful. But I do love going out there, even when it's 19 degrees like it was this morning at 6 a.m. when it's dark. I really love it. I love being with them and seeing who they are and connecting with them in that way every morning.
Yeah, I love it too. I was, as a matter of fact, on Thanksgiving, I was out scooping poop before we went to do our things, and it was a cold day. You know, where I am in Arizona is a higher elevation, so it does get cold.
Oh,
and
you
snow.
guys get cold, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, I believe our low tonight is 23. We're probably colder than.
I think it like us too.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely not what people think of when they hear Arizona.
No.
So, anyway, so I'm doing the things, and I was just thinking, man, I am so thankful for Martine. Martine was, let me try not to get all emotional about it, but Martine was my guy for like the whole time, literally, the whole time I had my barn. Crap, I'm going to get emotional.
It's all right. Cry. I might cry with you. It's fine.
Anyway, so he was my guy the whole time. Had many other people that were awesome too, but he was there the entire time. And I couldn't tell him in words like how much I appreciate how I could trust him, that, you know, for his job. And I was just out there doing my thing, thinking about him, and I'm like, man, I'm so thankful to be doing this though. Like to have just my horses and just do this by myself.
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, the horse care is so special. It's so hard. It takes so much work.
Oh my God.
But it's so special. And that's one of the biggest things that, sorry.
No, God,
I shouldn't
please.
apologize. Actually, I'll catch my own self on that. I am
That's
not
right.
So anyway.
Well, and what else besides, okay, that's not true. There are a million things that would do this, I'm sure. But this is what we know as horses. Syncs us up with the seasons, with the earth, with what is happening on the ground, with the weather, with the time. I mean, we're just really fortunate that we get to do what we do, whether it's with 2 horses or 105. It's an incredible life to get to care for these animals in every kind of weather, no matter what, because I think it grounds us and helps us be more one with the world. I love it. I know that sounds kind of hippie, but
No, that's perfect. Yeah. Before I did live in the hot part of Arizona that everyone thinks of when they hear Arizona. So very hot, hardly any real weather. The heat is really the only thing that you're like trying to survive all the time. And it's a hard job to survive it.
I can imagine.
So of course when I move up here and it's so different and cold and we get snow and all this stuff, I'm constantly being asked, like, how do you like it? Are you ready to move back yet? Like, all, that kind of thing, especially because I wasn't caring for my own horses all the time in, full me like I am now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like kind of silly when I say it, but it's like, I really, it just makes me feel more alive. Like I am not trying to just be in denial about moving to the cold. It really does. I have never felt more cold. Our cold here, I know, is like nothing compared to real cold. Someone in Minnesota will be like,
they're listening to this and they're like, y'all need to shut up. You don't know cold. And they're right. But this is the cold we're talking about.
They are right. But you know what? It was, for me, this is very cold.
Same.
So it definitely makes you feel more alive and like having seasons. Like I didn't really realize how oppressive, I'll call it, the heat felt. I was literally born and raised in the valley, so I just don't think about it. It just is what it is. You live through it,
Yeah.
But now that I'm out of it a little bit, I'm like, man, like seasons are cool.
Yeah. They're
I
pretty
like
awesome.
seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
and so is the cold, and I don't know. It's been great. Now, to be fair, I haven't been here an entire year yet. So every time someone asks me and I give them my spiel about how I feel so alive, and they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm
They're
like,
like,
but do
talk to me
ask me
after a
again.
year.
Yes, I'm like, ask me after February when I have completed a full cycle.
I think you've got it.
Yeah, well, now that I'm this far in, I'm pretty confident
Yeah,
I'm going to be saying the same thing in February.
I think
So,
so too.
yeah, I'm feeling good about that. But we'll have to see. We'll
Yeah,
perhaps
true.
have to do a follow up and have another conversation about that
I'm game.
after February. Uh, I did hear a little bit on another podcast that I found that you did back in 22, I
Oh my
believe.
gosh, with Shauna. Yep.
Yes. And you just told a little bit about your childhood, how you got into horses.
Oh yeah, yeah. Did I
Um,
talk about
and
that?
you
Wow,
did
that's
in that
cool.
episode. You did, yes. It was in the beginning. You talked about moving to Spain and how you got taken for your first horse ride.
Yes. I would love
Yes.
to share that.
Yes. So your story was great, and so I would love for you to tell us that little story because I think it's cool. And I had a question about it because I think it's so cool how you say like you just knew from a young age that you wanted to have an equine therapy center, and how you didn't really know what that even meant or looked like or anything, but that you always knew you wanted to. And obviously, it took a little while before you were there. um, but my question was that always that thought of, oh, I want to have a equine therapy center, was that always close to the front of your mind? Or would you say that it kind of got lost in there and you forgot about it? No, it was always there, huh?
Yeah, I'm a pretty I want to say I'm a pretty focused individual, but I also I have a lot of irons in the fire all the time. But I'm pretty focused on like this is a thing that I want to do, and I don't care how long it takes. We're going to get it done. So I've wanted to have horses since I was 2, and finally got my horse when I was 12, and when I was 15, equine therapy center after reading a book, and I was like, absolutely, and this is what I'm going to do with my life one day. And it was, I mean, I've gone through a lot to get to this. I don't even like to put it that way. I haven't gone through a lot. I've just had a lot of experiences in my life that have shaped who I am and what we do, just like we all have. Not all of them were really great. I was a single mom for a really long time. I was on food stamps for a while. Had a baby at 19. I mean, I really went off my path for a while. Not that baby's the best thing ever. He's 24 now, so he's amazing.
I'm guessing you might agree that you didn't go off your path. You just weren't on the path you thought you were going to be on. Probably.
I don't know that I ever had any plan for how I was going to get here. No, I do know. Yeah. I never had any plan for how I was going to get here. And because I didn't have a plan, the universe said, well, let's do all the things. You can do all of these things, and they'll all teach you something. And they did. Everything taught me a lot, but through all of it, I always knew that one day I'd have an equine therapy center. I have no idea why I always knew that. I knew that one day, and I didn't even say equine therapy center. I think I always knew that one day I would help people through horses. And now I also know that I help horses through people, that it goes both ways. But yeah, my whole life, it was always in the front. No matter what I was going through, no matter what was going on, it was always there. I knew that somehow I was going to get there. But yeah, man, it did go a wild route.
Yes. Now, you just said then you always knew you were going to help people through horses, and then you helped horses through people. I find that kind of interesting because I feel like so many horse trainers want to help horses first, and the people are like the second thing. And so you were people first, huh?
Well, where would
Maybe I should say people were the second thing, but people are the thing that we have to deal with.
Yeah, it's the thing.
In order to deal with the horses, you know?
Mark brought something up a couple years ago. I'm sure he's brought it up a million times, and maybe this is the first time I heard it. But he was like, he said something about if it wasn't for humans just wanting to connect with horses, they probably wouldn't exist. Why would we have horses? We don't need them anymore. Like for transportation or war, we don't need them. So why are they here? Well, we are looking for connection. I feel like humanity is, and horses they offer it up so well. I mean, they're just that's what they do. They connect with things. We're not so good at it, but we're looking for it. And I feel like if we just work with the horse and then we just give them back to the people, or I just work with the horse and then we don't train all the volunteers or educate people, what are we? We're the problem and the solution. So we have to work with us first, because we're the ones that are in control of the life of a horse. I don't like that, but it doesn't feel good really to say we're in control of the life of the horse, but we are. Whatever decision I make directly affects this animal that has no control of its own destiny, its life, anything. It has no control. If I decide this horse goes into this pasture, that's where he goes. If I decide that's his herd, that's where it is. If I decide that's what he eats, that's what he eats. If I decide this is how I'm going to ride, then that's how he's ridden. So we've got to work with the horses through the people. We've got to help people feel better, because I think if people would feel better, then they'll do better by their horses too. So, yeah. So also helping.
Well, and I think it's not even in some cases feel better. I feel like in some cases it's just feel.
Yeah, for sure. Be your body.
Myself included, certainly at a point there where it's like, man, yeah, sure, I can help you with your horse, but
right. But then
let's sit down and
yeah, exactly.
All the different ways of having that conversation too, I think is so funny. Like you figure out as when you're working with people, how to introduce. I guess it's the same with horses too. Really, I just find it so much easier with horses. How to introduce this different way of being or whatever. It
can be tricky to navigate for sure. It can be tricky to navigate. But we'll just go back to that. Once you accept that you have no control over how they're going to receive what you're saying, it frees you up. You're just like, well, they're either going to take it or they won't, and I can't save them all, and that's okay. And again, I would not have said that a few years ago. But now it's the way I feel I need to be in order to do what I do every day.
It is definitely, I think, how we can impact the most people, and horses, of course. As we know, that's important to me. Planting that seed, and if it doesn't sprout right now, just let it go. It's fine. That is so hard for me. When I had the training thing going on and boarding and all of that, especially in that scenario where it's not like I'm some clinician just seeing people occasionally. Like we're together day in, day out practically. In that situation. And they are people that are consistently working with you, and it starts to be like, sprout the seed! I know. In a way, it's like it would be so much easier if it was just on a clinician schedule in a way, like plant the seed and then let them go do their thing and don't think about them for a little while,
Right.
you know?
So much
But
easier.
when you're together all the time and consistently doing the thing, I know I made myself crazy trying to make stuff like happen.
Me too, man. Me too.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes, I
And they'll
do.
get it when they get it. And you, in the meantime, instead of like trying to shove it in there, you could be helping someone else and planting their seed and letting it grow.
Exactly.
You know?
But it only took me 43 years to understand.
Yes, I feel ya. So, anyway, well, we better wrap it up. We have been at it, and it has been a great time. So we will have to do it again. This was very fun.
Thank you, Tamara. This was I'm honored. Anytime someone wants to hear me open my mouth, I'm like, okay. I'm blown away and just thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It was really fun. And fill us in. How can people find you? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, great question. So we do have a Facebook page, it's just Wild Hearts Equine Therapy. And then we have our website, which is wildheartsequinetherapy.org. And if they want to chat with us or learn more, an email is always going to be best because it's really hard to talk on the phone when you're running around a farm all day. So our email is just info@wildheartsequinetherapy.org. I know it's so long, but it is what it is. And that goes to me, and then we figure out what to do with that email from there, which team member it goes to or whatever. So those are the best ways. And we are a 501c3. We're a nonprofit. So if anybody wants to donate during this, December when we're giving, we love donations because that's the way we're able to keep horses here their whole lives and so that they don't have to go anywhere else. So.
And I did see on your website, I mean, you have a lot of different programs, and some I wouldn't have necessarily called therapy programs. So right. I would encourage everyone to check out what you guys have going on if they're in the area or if they just feel called to check it out and follow along and support you guys, because it looks like you have a wide variety of really awesome things going on. So
thank you so much.
Yes, no problem. I will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to go feed horses their evening pans now, Tamara. This was good. This was really awesome. I hope that one day I get to meet you in person. Where are you in Arizona?
It's near Sholo, Arizona. So I am basically about 2.5 or 3 hours from Phoenix, let's say.
Okay. I have some friends that are moving outside of Sedona.
Yes, if you're in Arizona anywhere, you let me know because I'm cruising around doing the thing. So it would be awesome.
Okay. I will. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to go feed ponies.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Have a good one.
You too. That's a wrap. Thank you for listening. If you can, please rate or review the show, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. We also really appreciate your participation on social media. Anything you may be called to do will help us reach new listeners and help this style of horsemanship to flourish. Until next time, happy horsing.